SERE training, it's really one of the greatest training courses I've ever been to. I love SERE training. And I was waterboarded a bunch of times and beaten up and thrown against a wall and having to lay naked on a board with water, cold water being poured on me while the guards have the warm jackets on and all.
Welcome to Mindset Lessons from the Field. I'm Gina Cazazzo, the author of the upcoming memoir, Training with the SEAL. And today we have a guest that has been on the show before, but is back for a bonus episode to talk about his experience in SERE. If you haven't listened to his previous episode, I recommend you give it a listen after this. He was on SEAL Team 1, 2, and 6, is a New York Times bestselling author, motivational speaker, TV host, competed at over 1,000 competitive races. If you don't know who I'm talking about by now, let me introduce you to Don Mann. Don, thank you so much for being back on a bonus episode to talk about SERE. I'm so excited.
Thanks, Gina. It's good to be back here with you.
I'm so excited to hear about your SERE stories. For those that aren't aware of what SERE is, that's listening, can you explain what it is, what the military SERE is?
Sure. The military SERE, it's a program. They have different programs throughout the different services. And I was in the Navy, so I went through the Navy program. But it's survival, evasion, resist, and escape. So it teaches Tier 1 forces, SEALs, Delta Force, Army Rangers, Marines, and pilots, people who are often in war zones or flying over war zones, how to survive if they get captured or if they, get shot down. So it's survival. So there's a bit of survival where you're going out in the woods or the desert or the jungle or the Arctic, and you learn how to survive off the land and how to build shelter, where to get water and where to get food and what food not to eat, and in what order to get the shelter and the food and the water. There's different orders depending on where you go. For instance, if you are in the Arctic, you probably need shelter before you have to go looking for food or water. You need shelter because you can freeze to death so quickly. But waters, if it's not an extreme environmental weather condition or the temperature, water is the most important. So then you got to figure out how you're going to get your water and where you're going to get your water. So you do different things like how to get water off of plants and how to get it from cactus, prickly pear cactus, take it from dirty water like rivers and swamps even, and how to purify it and drink it. And then food's usually the last thing you really need because you can go a couple of weeks without eating. So SERE, the survival portion, teaches you how to live off the land. So to evade the enemy, that's also very important. How to stay low key, how to keep hidden, how to keep a super low profile. You might be evading the enemy in an urban environment. When you're in someone else's city, that's an enemy city or a hostile city, and you can't be known as an American or especially a military American. So you have to kind of stay in the gray, be the gray man, as we call it. And you don't want to draw attention to yourself and where you're going to stay and how you're going to live or maybe operate in that city. So it's survival, evade, meaning don't draw attention to yourself, and to evade being captured. And then there's so many different elements of that depending on where you are. But resisting capture, now it's really getting kind of, you're in a bad place if you have to resist being captured. The people who are captured, like those poor 230 people in Hamas right now who are captured, they had no clue what was going to happen. And you can't blame them. Nobody would in that situation. To resist capture, you have to be really, really aware of your situation. And you can't always be on the edge of your seat aware of your situation. If you're at a music festival and you're celebrating peace, you might not be thinking about being captured at that moment, or your survival, or your situational awareness. Not everybody can do this at all times. You can't live like that all the time. For that, it is nice to talk about situational awareness at those times, to have situational awareness. And you and I discussed it before, but just to know your surroundings. And if you see a big movement over in one area, what could that be? Then your mind should kind of shift. What Jeff Cooper used to call Cooper's color codes, going from the white to the yellow to the orange to the red to the black. Well, his color code white was, okay, I am listening to my music on my iPhone, or I'm talking to somebody. I've got my headphones on, I'm not paying attention. you see people driving around the roads like that all the time. And a car comes in front of them, they hit it, they have no situational awareness. In today's world, I think the only place I practice being in the white is at home or with my neighbors, who I have 6 neighbors on this mountain, 7 neighbors on this mountain. But pretty much all the other times I shift into yellow. I'm not paranoid, I'm not scared, but I have a little bit of a sense that, I take a left on this road and boy, cars are coming down this hill fast. I better look that way. I have a little bit of awareness that something bad can happen. Or if I'm bike riding out on these mountain roads, at any time, a deer can cut out in front of me. I'm just ready for a threat to come out. Actually, a bear did come out a couple of weeks ago and he ran in front of me and I followed the bear. But that aside, you have to kind of be aware of what can happen. But then say, for instance, you're driving down the road and you look in your left mirror, center mirror, right mirror, and you realize, boy, that car's been following me for a bit. I'm going to take a right here, see what happens. Take a right. Okay, I'm looking in the mirror. He's following me. There's 2 guys in that car. Okay, now you've heightened up from white to yellow to orange. And now you're thinking red is having a plan and acting on it. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drive near a police station or near a hospital because they have cameras there. I'll even park in front of the hospital. I'll just walk in. I'll park in front of the police station. I'll walk in. I won't drive near my home. Maybe I don't want to bring this threat to my home. Situation black, it's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Usually go from white to black, meaning no awareness at all to, oh my God, the threat's right here. The bad guy just came in. Mm-hmm. Or the big truck just hit you, or the deer cut in front of your bicycle, or those 2 guys following you. Now you see AK-47s up and they're going to try to block you in a T intersection or something. So SERE is survive, evade, resist, and try to resist capture, because once you're captured, and this is so meaningful for today, the chaos, the confusion, and the security is the least amount it's going to be. Usually when they capture someone, that's the best time to escape. If you can just smack that guy in his nose, make his nose bleed, make his eyes water, and run and scream as fast as you can, something like that. If you can quickly escape, the best chance you have of doing that is as soon as you're captured. Mm-hmm. The longer you wait, the more security is usually around you, the more organized they are going to be and keeping you secured and keeping you hidden. And the longer you wait, and the longer these poor hostages over in Gaza wait, the more they're going to be moved around, the more they're going to be protected from hostage rescue teams coming in. So survive, evade, resist, and escape. The escape part, I like to think that there's always the possibility of escape or to be rescued. If that ever happens as a hostage, you can't give up hope. You can never, ever give up hope. And you always have to think, I know I'm going to get out of this. I know I can escape, or I know I'm going to be rescued. And you can't give up hope because there's always a way to get out. There's always is. You have to believe that. SERE training, it's really one of the greatest training courses I've ever been to. I love SERE training. And I was waterboarded a bunch of times and beaten up and thrown against a wall and having laid naked on a board with cold water being poured on me while the guards have the warm jackets on and all. I learned so much from it. And I loved your story about you going through your SERE training that you went through, because I'm so glad you can do that as a woman, as a civilian. I mean, that is fantastic. But SERE, and if you think about it all the time, it's survival. And it is nice to survive because we could bring it to our own lives now. Survival here, I'm living in a home, but I have food that'll last me a long time if I need it. I have a river right at the bottom of this mountain where I can get all the water I want. So I think of those things. I don't drink from that river, and I hope I don't have to, but if I need to, I will. I had an incident where we had a strange van driving up and down the road with 2 shady characters in it, I mentioned to you. We didn't know who those people were. So all of our people on this mountain, our awareness rose up. And we were aware of the situation. And we went out and checked it out, and we escorted them off the mountain. I did, knowing that if somebody's following you, if you see a lot of movement or something, to get your awareness and your situational awareness up and resist capture. If you think of war within arm's reach, if somebody can be within arm's reach and they can grab you, it's too late, especially if you're smaller or younger and you don't have a weapon, maybe a woman. You don't want to be within arm's reach of anybody. You have to be able to resist. And really, like I've got 2 daughters and they're both young women. And I tell them, don't ever get within arm's reach of anybody. And if you have to, always keep in mind that the heel of your hand really quickly into someone's nose, if you have to, it's going to make their eyes water. They're going to let go. They're not going to be able to see, and you'll have a chance to get away. And run and scream toward people and scream as loud as you can. And really, that's what's the advice I give them. But if you're captured, the earlier you can escape, the better, because everything tightens up on the captive after a while.
With everything the knowledge that you have with everything like the survival, the resistance, when did you prep for that? Did they give you classes to teach you all this stuff, and then kidnapping and all that stuff began? Like, what was the days leading up to the training time to the actual like SERE experience?
Okay, so when I went through, it was in Warner Springs, California. And it sounds like it'd be a nice sunny place, but the nights were cold. So what they do is they do teach you how to live off the land. And you have some classroom days, some classroom training, and they teach you how to make, a shelter, or lean-to, or how to protect yourself from the elements. And they do teach you how to get water. They teach you how to forage for food and what plants to eat, what animals to eat. And it's so funny. I don't know anything about throwing knives, and we're like 15 of us walking through trying to find some food. And we saw this rabbit running. And again, I really don't know anything about throwing knives. And I had my knife on me, my K-bar, and I just threw the K-bar at the rabbit. And the K-bar spin, and it got the rabbit right in the neck. Everyone thought, wow, that guy is really good with knives. Well, I'm not. But then we skinned the rabbit. We put it in hot water to make rabbit stew. But the rabbit was so little, it tasted just like hot water. You couldn't even tell it was there. But that was one example. We're all out there looking and trapping and trying to fish, and you get the cactus, prickly pear cactus. But they do teach you what to eat and how to prevent from getting real cold or hot in the elements. And then what they do is they release you into like a cone. So it might be a few hundred meters wide. And then it gets narrower and narrower and narrower until the very end. And then that's where the enemy guards are, and they're patrolling upward. And you can't leave these barriers, and they capture everybody. Mm-hmm. And then when they capture you, they bring you to this prison camp, a mock prison camp. And they have these little boxes, and they're only, maybe waist high and this wide. And they say, War Pig, get in your box. And you get in there. Put your right leg over your left leg. So you sit in the cross-legged. And there's not room to sit up in the box straight. So you kind of have to have your head tilted, and then put the potato sack over your head. It's like a burlap bag. And then put your right hand on your right knee, your left hand over your left knee. And then you're in that box like for days. But they'll pull you out every now and then, and they'll pull you out and they interrogate you and resist. Part of the art in SERE is to resist interrogation. And so the way we did this, if you have valuable information that you can't let out, because if you do, it harms U.S. interest, you have to resist giving that up. You can't basically say, well, yeah, I'm Delta Force and I've been in 15 years and my specialty is weapons and comms, and I live here and I've got a family. You can't give all that, because the enemy does so much with all that information. So for my case, I was a SEAL medic. Right? They had this little pilot, this young, smaller guy, and they were going to put him on the waterboard. And there's 70 of us so out there in the dirt and just crawling in the sand. And actually, we're drawing CCCP in the dirt on our hands and knees, and the hammer and sickle. That was our punishment for the day. We had to do it all on our hands and knees. And then they pulled up this pilot, and he said, somebody's getting people to escape, and we know it's you. And he's pointing at this poor pilot. Well, the guy they had to get people to escape was me. I was the only SEAL in the class. So I had a job to try to get people to escape. And it's called the covert leader. So although I wasn't the highest ranking person by any means, but the highest ranking person said, I want you to be the covert leader. You get things to happen covertly. You get the people out if you can. So I got a lot of people out of our SERE school. So I got maybe 7 or 8 people out of our SERE school. I got them out through the fence. When I knew the guards were in one section, I'd pull them. I managed to get the fence up and I got them out. And then they were starting to interrogate this pilot and saying, we know you're getting people out. And this pilot said, no, I'm not. They said, well, we're going to put you on the waterboard unless you tell us who's getting people out. They said, it's a SEAL. He ratted me out immediately. So I was waterboarded all over and over and over and over. He gave up for about 3 seconds. But to be fair, he hadn't gone through all the SERE training at that point, but still, it was kind of surprising how quickly he gave up a fellow American. They pulled me up and they said, okay, unless you tell us where these guys are that you let out, you're going to be waterboarded. And so what you have to do is really, really buy time and delay time. And you don't tell them these things. But right before they cause you physical harm, like pulling off a fingernail or the bamboo shoots in your fingernails, for instance, or cutting off a finger or electrodes somewhere, right before they're bound to do something really, really bad, then you give them a little bit of information. If you give them all the information all at once, you have no value to them later on. So you give them a little information at a time. So they put me on the waterboard. You don't have any clothes on. It's freezing cold. And they take this dirty rag and put it over your face and pour this dirty water on your face. And you start coughing and choking. And they say, okay, you better tell us what's your name. And then you just try to get everything out of your mouth. And then I'd say, okay, I'll tell you my name. I'll tell you. But you delay. You just don't say it. You say, okay, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. And then you cough and choke and just do everything you can to delay it. My friends call me done. And then just delay it and just give them a little bit of information, a little bit of information, a little bit of information. And then they keep you around because you have a lot. So that's the simplistic version, really, because the enemy doesn't always act like that. But to train our troops in the U.S., that's basic SERE, survival, evasion, resist, and escape. I did get a bunch of people to escape, and I disrupted the course. I stole the radio, and I got some a lighter inside, and I got in all the other cells, the little boxes, and I took all the burlap bags, and I hid them. So when I was captured, I was in the Jeep, and I had ties on my feet and hands. And I was just sitting there, and the instructor, and at that time, everybody had the role playing of the instructors was Russian. They were all acting Russian. And he put me in the Jeep. He kind of threw me in the Jeep. And there was a radio called Prick 77. There was a radio right there next to my feet. And he got outside, and I took his radio and I threw it under the Jeep without him knowing. I was playing it for real, So then he drove off, put me in my camp in my little box. And the boxes had hinges on them, so you can open them up. So the bottom opens up, and when they open up the cell for you to get in, then they just shut it, but they're not locked. So the guards will come by and they knock on your box, and if I'm box number 16, you have to answer, War Pig number 16 here, sir. Then they'll knock on the next one. War Pig number 15 here, sir. And they go down just to make sure you're in there. So what I would do, once they came to my cell, I'd say, War Pig number 16 here, sir. Then I'd look down and see the guard going in that direction toward my right, for instance. And then I would quickly get out of my box and sneak in someone else's box. And the two of us would hide in that other person's box for a while. And I made my way all the way out. So I stole all the other burlap sacks from all the other boxes and made my way back to mine. Before they came back to mine, I snuck in a lighter. So I had a lighter. I just took it really seriously. And I knew there was a prisoner of war camp where it was. And the night before we got released, I went and I broke the lights that were shining onto the camp. And I tore down a bridge so you couldn't cross the bridge. And if you get a little reward, if you have a little bit of a victory, it helps you a lot. Like, yeah, I got that. I got over on him. Even if it's just a little. Like, I didn't tell him what they wanted me to tell him. It's a victory, and the victories keep you going. The best time I had there was I heard people talking all the Russian guards, the Russian role players acting like they were Russian, but they went out of role and they were arguing. They said, "Where's that radio? I had it in my Jeep." The other guys, "I don't know. I know I put it in your Jeep." So I was having a good time in my box. And who tore down the bridge? What happened to the bridge? I don't know what happened to the bridge. I'm thinking, oh, yes, this is so good. How come the lights aren't working? Why aren't the lights working? So this went on for days. And
how long were you in the box? Like
a couple of days.
Okay. I no food, you're just sitting in this box.
No food, no. So the only
no
time
water?
We got a little bit of water, a little bit at a time, just like a cup in the box or something.
Okay.
And I got a lot of water through the water board.
And how's your body feel going through all this experience?
You feel it getting really skinny and you feel yourself starving. And I felt that a number of times in my life, but where you just feel your body, well, what your body does is it eats from itself. The protein breaks down and the protein breaks down from your muscles. And then that protein's used as energy. So your body has some form of energy. So if you're not supplying your body with energy, your body gets it from breaking down protein in your muscle. And you feel it. You feel yourself getting skinny. Your clothes are looser, and it's just a sick feeling that you're just starving. So what we had the final day, I mean, the SERE school was so believable. There were some pilots and aircrew type people, they really felt they were in another country because they weren't eating, they weren't sleeping. All they heard is this Russian role playing over the loudspeakers. And some people really broke. They really broke.
What does that mean? That they really broke?
They were willing to tell anything. They were trying to just go home, and they really felt that they were captured. Mm-hmm. Their minds just gave in.
Now, you didn't think I don't know, I'm just throwing this out. They're asking you your name and you said you're going to stall and stuff like that. Why give your real name?
You don't have to. So that was my basic SERE. I went to an advanced SERE after that, and the advanced SERE
that was basic. Oh, wow. Okay, tell us about this advanced SERE.
Yeah, well, so what happens? People when they go overseas, and I'm not letting out a secret or anything. You memorize a whole other identification, mm-hmm. and a social security and an address where you used to live, and you might go into that city and look at this elementary school you went to or the high school. And so you can say, yeah, right down the road from my elementary school, if you take a right, there's a little convenience store there. And we used to always play at the park. And you have to be able to talk your fake identity, including fake relatives. My memory was never that great, but I mean, the really, really good people at this, they'd had 3 identities. Wow. So you didn't ever give up your name, because right now the world is so different. I mean, even years ago, I went to a conference once and you'd say, yeah, my name is Gina and my mother's name is this, and this is where we're from. They'd let you all out at lunch. You come back at lunch and there were butcher paper all over the walls saying everything about you, everything about every person in your family, where you all shop, where all the money is spent, where your mortgage might be, where you went to college, who your husband or boyfriend is. They know everything about you by just giving a little bit of information. And that was years ago. But now with the retinal scan and everything, it's really, really hard to travel with different identities now. And if you get caught with a different identity, then they know you're somebody there that shouldn't be there and doing things against their country or their cause. So it is best not to give your real name if you have to be able to walk your talk. So for instance, I was a medic. So when I was on the board, the water board, and I would say, okay, my name is Don. What do you do? Finally, I say, okay, you start big and you get really, really, really small. And the point, what they'd want to know is as part of SEAL team. The big part, they could care less, and they probably realize, okay, I'm part of the Department of Defense. If you have to give something, start out something really, really, really broad. And then they'll slap you around, waterboard. You say, we know that. You have to give me more information. Okay, I'll give you more. For me, when they were pouring the water on my face for the waterboarding, I started coughing and choking. I noticed they would stop pouring the water on me. So I use that to my advantage. I'll just cough and choke way more than I really need to. A lot of time doing that too. So the DOD was a big umbrella, and I could back that up. Okay, really, now if time goes on, they keep interrogating you, and the next level is you have to give them a little more information is, okay, Department of the Navy. I'm not even in the Navy yet. I'm keeping that aside. And then if things really, really heighten up, they're just about ready to hurt you. You have to give them more. Then you can say, okay, I am in the Navy. And then, but you don't want to give them your specific skills, like for my case. So what I just say is I was in the medical field, because I could back that up. I can talk the medical field. I can talk about, I don't have to say anything about being a SEAL or anything. So you just try to keep it super, super broad because you could talk at that level, but don't bring it right into who you are and why you're in that country and what you're doing there.
Now, when did you have the opportunity to escape? And when you did have that opportunity, how long was the escape period until everything was all done?
So what I did, I stayed and got other people to escape. Like John McCain, Senator McCain, he was given the opportunity to leave and to escape, and he didn't because he was helping his fellow warriors, and he didn't want to leave them behind. Of course, that wasn't my situation. Mine was just training. But for me, my job was to get others to escape. And if I escaped, I could have escaped easily. I know I could have because I got other people to escape. But then all the other guys would have been just stuck there. So I knew I really probably could have escaped when I wanted to. I was holding up okay, and I was feeling really good about getting these other guys out.
Do you think like they escape and then they're going to go out and like help you, like to come back for you? Like, do you think that at all? Like when you're in this game, like if this was real life, like you staying there to help others, and yet you're still suffering.
Yep. So there is, they can go get help, and that they can give information. They might not know the exact whereabouts of where the camp was, the prison camp, but they can give the teams or whoever's out there. You can give them a lot of description, and it's going to help them find you. They'll ask you a lot of pointed questions to help them identify what's the enemy personnel there. How many hostages are there? What's the security like? What are their uniforms like? Do they have uniforms? Do they carry weapons? What type of weapons do they carry? Does it seem like they had dogs? Did you notice any, like, what the security, the fencing look like? And you'll be able to answer some of those questions, because when you're not in that little box, you can still hear things. And when you get dragged out of that box, you can look around and gather as much information as you can. And you really want to do that to keep your situational awareness up. So when you get out, because you have to believe you're going to get out, you can report as much information as you can, because it's going to help the others get rescued.
So you never got out because you were helping others get out for the basic.
So mine ended up kind of funny. So what happened? They all knew it was me who stole the radio, who broke the lights and broke the bridge.
How'd they know?
Because I was the only SEAL there, and it made sense to them that it was a SEAL who did it, and it was just training. So, and even if it wasn't training, if you capture a bunch of guys and there's a guy in special operations, they're probably going to assume that guy in special operations is causing all the problems. Maybe, they might be wrong. What happened to me is they bring in all these other criminals, war criminals, they call them. They'd say, okay, get in your box, put your right leg over your left leg, put your bag on, and then say, sir, war pig number 11, I do not have a sack in my cell. And war pig number 10, I do not have a sack in my cell, because I stole them all and got rid of them. Finally, what they did, they came and got me out of my box. And they dragged me up to the little headquarters building, and they had me stand up against the wall, said, look straight ahead. And the colonel, he was an Air Force, he was a Navy captain. He came out, and he was a prisoner of war for a long time, and he had solitude confinement for 7 years. And he was a war hero. He was in charge of our prisoner of war camp. And we never saw him, of course. He was stratosphere, was above our level. But he came up to me and looked at me in the eye, and he said, where's our radio? Not knowing it, but he was talking to me in real life, and I was still in training mode. So I said, sir, I do not know where your radio is. He said, no, we need that radio back. Sir, I do not know where your radio is. I was doing everything they taught me. What happened to our bridge? I don't know, sir. We need to know what happened to the bridge. Sir, I do not know what you're talking about, sir. Why don't our lights work? Who broke the lights? What happened to our lights? So I don't know. And I went on and on. I was so into the training, I wasn't getting the fact that he's really wanting to know because he's got a high dollar radio missing and all this other stuff. So then it was a big moment for me because they had me hiding behind a box while everyone else is in the dirt drawing CCP and the hammer and sickle in the dirt. And then role player came out with the American flag and he stomped on it and he's stepping on it and he lit it on fire. And people are watching this and crying. He was telling over and over and over, you hear this propaganda being said, how America is, now we're being called the great Satan, but America is evil and they cause all these wars and it's a terrible country. And we're going to give you the chance to come over to our side. And the first person comes over, come on in, we'll give you some tea and some cookies. And come on, you don't have to be like this. Look how you're being treated. Come to our side, give us the information we need, and we'll take care of you. And you hear all that. And then they're burning the flag. And all this time they had me hiding. And then on cue, I had to raise the American flag, and the American flag came up, and the course ended. And they said, first thing we did, the reason we burnt this flag is it did touch the ground, and it's out of respect, you burn the flag if it touched the ground. Mm-hmm. But the training is over. And I got on a man for just playing it so real. And so for me, I was very proud of that, how I held back. And then I was captured, I have been captured. And I got a lot out of SERE training because when I was captured, well, first of all, we knew we could be captured because we were caught, and we were caught what we were doing. And then 14 guys came over with weapons. They had weapons, we didn't. So we put our hands up, and they held us overnight at gunpoint, and they were going to shoot us in the backs. But what saved our lives, there's 4 of us, none of us. We were all scared, but we think the enemy was more scared than we were. They had the weapons, and they circled around us. But we all knew we were going to get out. We had the mindset like we are going to win. We didn't give them a bit of information. We told them we were there for training, period. And then when we left, we were sick as can be. And I mentioned all this to you, but we were very, very sick. But none of us gave up any information. Nobody complained. And we went back and finished the job. We won and they lost.
Wow. Now, what you mentioned, like basic, and then you mentioned advanced. Like, can you go into what is advanced SERE school? How long is that? Did you escape at that point? I didn't know that there was more than one SERE.
There is an advanced SERE school, and it's called a gentleman's course, which is kind of funny. But Dr. James Mitchell and Dr. Bruce Jessen, 2 psychiatrists, ran the school. It was higher end, and it was more like, maybe some even big corporate people would go there, or high-end military people, where you might not be treated the same as like being thrown in a box and being waterboarded. You might be treated a little bit differently, but they still need the information from you, and they're still going to do everything they can to get the information from you. So it wasn't so much to survive, to see if you'd break. So when they pull you out of those positions, you might be more prone to talking. And the Army's manual of what the far left will call torture, we call it interrogation techniques. And they put you up against those techniques. For instance, one's facial slapping. And it makes a loud noise. And if you slap someone really hard in the face, it stuns them, makes them annoyed, it makes a loud noise, and it startles a person. And if you look threatening and you're going to do it over and over, a lot of times people will talk with just that. So at this course, they do put you through this. They slap you around a few times just to see if you're going to break. And if you feel like you're going to break, you have to, as the student going through this, not break. And go ahead. And you have to say, hit me all you want. In your mind, you have to say this, so what? My face stings. Do it over and over and over. But you can't let them know you're thinking that. You just can't give in and give them any information. The other one is they would have a board, and it's really loud, and they take you by your shirt and they push you real hard against it, and it makes a loud, loud noise. and you get stunned, your head rattles a little bit. And then they do that to you a few times, a lot of times. It's uncomfortable positions they put you in where there could be a chain coming down. Your hands are like this here on the chain, and you can't really stand up and you can't really sit down. So your legs are at a really awkward position, or you might be on your knees for a long time, and that's painful.
Did they ever hang you upside down?
No, they didn't do that to us.
They did that to the people that they tortured in the SERE one that I went to. Well, that's what they say. I wasn't there. I escaped. But, that this is all it's so interesting to me on the training that you go through. You mentioned something that I thought was really interesting. You talked about your mind and how your mind is what's really getting you through it. It's like when you actually got captured in real life, it was your mindset that got you through it because you knew you were going to go through it. Now, when you're going through this and getting tortured, like, what can you give to others? What advice do you have in terms of keeping that mindset strong through the physical pain and the fear that you're experiencing in the moment?
So your body will break down. Your body's, it's not a machine. It's definitely going to break down at some point. The fitter and stronger you go in and stay as just a healthy lifestyle, the better off you're going to be, of course. So the fitter and stronger usually do better physically. But your mind, really, every single day, your mind can get stronger. If you practice what we call combat mindset, or developing a stronger mindset each and every day, and you picture, okay, boy, I'm going to Egypt next week, or I'm going to Israel, and wow, look what could happen. Look what could happen. And you start visualizing things that can happen, and visualize what is happening to the people who've been in captivity. I mean, you're strengthening your mind, because if, and this is a terrible topic right now, I know, but if something does happen to you, then you have in your mind, okay, I know people have put up with so much more than what I'm going through right now. I know there's been so many people who've gone through the same thing I'm going through right now for a long, long time, a lot longer than I've been here, and they put up with a lot more than what I'm going to put up with. They're a human being. I'm a human being. I can be that strong. And you have to know you have the capability and the ability, because you're a human being, putting up with a lot. Not that you want to, but that you can put up with a lot. We are human beings, and we look back in the past history, the Bataan Death March, and people have been captured, in World War II, all over the place, North Korea, South Korea, Korea during the Korean invasion, Vietnam. The people who are captured, what they went through, sometimes for years and years and years, and got out. I mentioned Senator John McCain. Look how well he did. So if you just don't give up and your mind stays strong, and you can beat it, you stay quiet, you be the gray person, don't bring attention to yourself, and just always think, how am I going to escape? And get these little victories, little victory, the best you can. Like, wow, I gave back my plate, my food tray, but I kept the plastic knife. Now I've got the plastic knife with me. That's a win, So even these little wins, that plastic knife that can be sharpened and sharpened and sharpened, now you have a weapon, perhaps,
So you mentioned picturing like the worst case, like you're going into a country that is at unrest and anything can happen, and you're picturing all this, and then you're picturing all the people that has gone through it to give you that strength that you can do it as well. So when you're going through it all though, and then all of a sudden it happens. It's like, oh my God, all the worst things that people are like, you don't do that, because then you're manifesting that it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden it happens. And I mean, I like your approach because it heightens up my social awareness. I want to be socially aware. I don't want to live in a fantasy land that everything's going to work out okay. And, to not be aware and be la-di-da. But how do you balance the whole, like, I'm visualizing the worst thing that could possibly happen to me, but I'm also visualizing getting out and being safe.
Well, perhaps if I bring it to, what's happening in the last 25 days, now we've known Hamas and Hezbollah have infiltrated through our southern border, and there's Hamas and Hezbollah, huge organizations in Mexico, and they are coming across our border. So I know there's cells here in the US of people who want to take away our way of life, take away our way of life. And I know that's there. I also know what happened to Israel 25 days ago. There's a chance that could happen here. And it doesn't keep me awake at night. I'm not scared. I'm not worried, but I'm ready. I'm ready if and when it happens. And I'm ready to protect anybody who's near me. I'm not paranoid, but boy, I stay, my situational awareness is on. It's not a problem for me to keep it on either, because it's just a way of life. And I'm not paranoid. I'm not scared. I'm pretty relaxed, actually, but I'm always aware of what's going on. And so I feel that's not going to happen to me. And I also feel that if it happens, and it happens to people around me, that I'll do everything I can to protect those people. If it does, and that's how you have to believe, but if it does happen to you, you have to know you can get away. And you have to never, ever give up hope that you're going to be able to get away and you're going to survive it. And that's actually part of the meaning of combat mindset. In this fight, I will win. I might get hurt, but if I get hurt, I'll be treated. If I am shot or wounded badly, I will be treated. I'll be able to continue on with the fight. But you never visualize of you being so badly hurt that you can't continue on. And like we like to say, stay in the fight. So the visualization is you're going to win no matter what. And you always have to look for opportunities where if you do get captured, where to escape, or before you get captured, how to, not be the one who's being captured. Keeping your mindset that strong.
I'm really glad that we had this conversation and I got to know about your SERE experience and how you brought it into today's world. And I think that anybody listening can really get a lot of good advice to, hopefully they never go through experience like that, but, just to be aware and just be understanding and develop that combat mindset. So I am so grateful that you came back for this bonus episode to share with us your SERE experience and give us all these amazing life lessons.
Well, thank you very much, Gina.
Thank you, everyone that's listening. Go like, share, comment, and subscribe now. Thanks again for listening, and tune in for our next episode of Mindset Lessons from the Field.